The rain hammered the roof like accusations I couldn't outrun, each drop a reminder of the family I'd lost. Adriel, you're my brother. Blood doesn't bend that way. Elena had sworn that night, her voice a fierce shield against Mom and Dad's thunderous rage, her arms wrapped around me as if she could hold back the world. But by morning, she'd vanished, leaving only a note that scorched my soul. I can't watch this destroy us all. Forgive me. That was 12 years ago, in the flat, unforgiving heart of Nebraska, where cornfields stretched like endless judgments under a sky too big for secrets. I was 17, raw and trembling, when I confessed over dinner that the ache in my chest wasn't for the girls at school. It was for the boys who made my pulse race like a stolen heartbeat. Mom's fork clattered to the plate, her face crumpling like wet newsprint. Dad's eyes turned to stone. "This isn't our son," he growled, his voice thick with the Bible verses he'd memorized like ammunition. Elena, 20 and already the family's golden girl, bound for college on a scholarship, fierce as a prairie wind, leapt to her feet. "It is our son, and if you can't love him like this, you don't deserve him at all." She grabbed my hand, pulling me toward the door as Dad's bellows chased us into the night. We hid in her beat-up Chevy, parked under the stars that felt like indifferent witnesses, and she whispered promises into the dark. "We'll get through this, Addie. You're not alone. Not ever." But alone was exactly what I became. Elena drove me to the bus station at dawn, her eyes red-rimmed but resolute. "Go to Omaha. Aunt Clara will take you in. I'll follow soon, promise." She hugged me so tight I could feel her heartbeat sync with mine, then pressed a wad of crumpled 20s into my palm. The bus doors hissed shut, and as the fields blurred past, I twisted in my seat, searching for her silhouette waving goodbye. She wasn't there. Days turned to weeks, my calls unanswered, letters returned unopened. Aunt Clara, a chain-smoking widow in a shotgun house off Dodge Street, became my reluctant harbor. "Family's a fickle bitch," she'd mutter over black coffee, her voice gravelly from years of regret. I nodded, burying the hurt in night shifts at a diner, slinging hash browns to truckers who leered or pitted. Elena's silence grew roots in my chest, twisting deeper with every unanswered voicemail. Had she chosen them? Was defending me just a fleeting rebellion, like a firework that fizzles in the wind? Omaha swallowed me whole, a city of rusted bridges and neon promises, where the Missouri River churned like the doubts in my gut. I scraped by, enrolling in community college on financial aid, studying graphic design because it let me hide behind screens, crafting worlds where love didn't come with footnotes. Nights blurred into hookups in dive bars, quick and hollow, chasing the ghost of connection without the risk of revelation. "You're too pretty for your own good," a guy once slurred, his breath sour with whiskey, before vanishing like smoke. Pretty. It was the word Elena used to tease me as kids, braiding wildflowers into my hair during summer fairs. Now it felt like a curse, marking me as other in a world that pretended tolerance but whispered slurs behind closed doors. By 25, I clawed my way to a freelance gig designing logos for local startups, renting a shoebox apartment above a laundromat that hummed like a perpetual migraine. The ache for Elena dulled to a scar, one I prodded in quiet moments, wondering if she'd married some corn-fed farmer, birthed kids who'd never know their funny Uncle Addie. Mom and Dad? Cut off cold. Their farm a forbidden kingdom I drove past once on a whim, the mailbox still emblazoned with Riverside Family Farm like a taunt. I told myself I was free to love without their chains, but freedom tasted like ash when the mirror reflected a man still piecing himself together. Then Roman crashed into my life like a storm front rolling off the plains. It was a muggy July evening at the Anchor, a dimly lit pub in the Old Market District where the air hung heavy with fried pickles and forgotten dreams. I was nursing a craft IPA, sketching logos on a napkin to drown out the ache of another birthday alone, when he slid onto the stool beside me. Tall, with shoulders that strained his faded Cardinals tee and ink-black hair falling in waves that begged to be touched. He ordered a whiskey neat and flashed a smile that hit like sunlight-piercing clouds. "Mind if I critique your masterpiece?" he asked, nodding at my doodles. His voice was low, laced with that easy Midwestern drawl. Chicago roots, I learned later, warm as fresh cornbread. I laughed, the sound rusty from disuse. "Only if you buy the next round." We talked for hours, the pub emptying around us like water down a drain. Roman was 30, a high school history teacher who'd traded Wall Street suits for chalk-dusted khakis after a burnout epiphany. "History's just stories we tell to make sense of the mess," he said, his hazel eyes locking on mine with an intensity that made my skin hum. He didn't flinch when I mentioned Elena's ghost, just leaned in, tracing the rim of his glass. "Family's not blood. It's who shows up when the world's on fire." By closing time, we were stumbling into the street, his arm brushing mine, sparks igniting in the humid air. Our first kiss happened under a street lamp, tentative at first, then fierce, like we'd both been starving for air. Dating Roman felt like unearthing buried treasure. Lazy Sundays flipping pancakes in his loft overlooking the river, debating Spielberg films over takeout Thai. His laughter wrapping around me like a quilt on a winter night. He was steady, the kind of man who left notes in my sketchbook. "You make the ordinary epic." For the first time, I let myself dream of forever, of a life where love wasn't a battlefield. We hiked the bluffs at Fontanelle Forest, his hand firm in mine as we watched eagles soar, and in those moments, Elena's shadow receded, replaced by the possibility of us. "Marry me?" he murmured one evening, tangled in sheets that smelled of him, a simple silver band glinting in his palm. I said yes, tears blurring the yes into a vow, our bodies fitting like puzzle pieces worn smooth by time. But shadows have a way of lengthening. 6 months into our engagement, a letter arrived, postmarked from Lincoln, Elena's old college town, the handwriting a ghost from my past. No return address, just my name scrawled in looping blue ink. My hands shook as I slit the envelope, Roman's brow furrowing from the kitchen. "Everything okay, babe?" I nodded, throat tight, and unfolded the single sheet. "Addie, Luca's asking questions. He deserves to know his uncle. Meet us at the farm Christmas Eve. Please." Luca? A nephew?" The words blurred, a floodgate cracking. Roman pulled me close, his chin on my shoulder. "Go. Whatever it is, face it. I'll be right here." The drive back to Riverside was a gauntlet of memories. Interstate billboards hawking Jesus saves alongside truck stops glowing like false beacons. Snow dusted the fields by the time I turned onto the gravel lane, the farmhouse looming like a sentinel, its windows aglow against the twilight. My heart jackhammered as I parked, boots crunching frost-laced earth. The door creaked open before I knocked, and there she was, Elena, older but unmistakable, her auburn hair streaked with silver, laugh lines etched around eyes that mirrored mine. "Addie?" she breathed, stepping into a hug that swallowed 12 years. She smelled of vanilla and regret, her frame slimmer, worn by invisible wars. Luca hovered behind her, a lanky 15-year-old with her cheekbones and my dimpled chin, curiosity flickering in his gaze. "Uncle Adriel? Mom said you're an artist. Can I see your sketches?" His voice cracked on the edges, all gangly limbs and earnest questions, and something in me cracked too, a dam against the isolation I'd armored myself with. Inside, the house was a time capsule. Faded quilts on the couch, Dad's recliner empty by the fire, Mom's Bible open on the side table. Elena poured mulled cider, her hands unsteady. "Dad had a stroke last year. Mom's fragile. They don't know I'm here. Not yet." We talked in fragments at first, her scholarship leading to a teaching job in Lincoln, a quiet marriage to a gentle accountant named Tom who passed from cancer 3 years back, Luca's soccer dreams and straight-A report cards. She skirted the why of her silence, but it hung between us like smoke. "I defended you because it was right," she said finally, voice barely above the crackle of logs. "But staying, it would have burned us all." I pressed, the old wound festering. "You promised. Then nothing. Was I not worth the fight?" Her eyes welled, but she looked away, toward the window where snow swirled like unanswered prayers. Christmas morning dawned brittle and bright, Luca dragging me out to build a lopsided snowman while Elena watched from the porch, bundled in a scarf that swallowed her. Roman texted check-ins, his words a lifeline. "Miss you. Home's not the same without your chaos." By evening, as carols droned from a tinny radio, Elena pulled a shoebox from the attic, dusty photos, my old mixtapes, a stack of letters bound with twine. "These are yours," she whispered, placing it in my lap. The The top one was dated the week after I left. Addie, I can't breathe here. They're watching me, waiting for me to break you more. I'm leaving for good, starting over where they can't find us. But I need time. I love you. Always. My breath hitched. Leaving, not abandoning. The truth unraveled like a pulled thread. Elena hadn't chosen them. She'd fled, too, hitchhiking to Lincoln with a duffel and determination. Changing her number, her address, building a fortress around her grief. I thought if I stayed away, they'd forget you, let you go. But Mom and Dad hunted her, guilt-tripping calls that painted me as the villain who'd torn the family asunder. They said you were a phase they'd cure, she confessed, tears carving tracks down her cheeks. I couldn't risk them finding you first, so I vanished. For both of us. Luca, piecing it together from overheard whispers, had found the letters in her desk last month. Mom cries on your birthday every year, he said softly, his small hand on my knee. She kept a scrapbook. Of you. Betrayal twisted into understanding. Sharp as a winter wind. All those years, I'd imagined her thriving without me, her defense a lie. But she'd been fracturing too, raising Luca in secrecy, mailing anonymous care packages to Aunt Clara that never reached me. I failed you, she sobbed, and I pulled her close. The three of us a knot of limbs and salt water. We failed each other. But Luca, he brought us back. Outside, the snow muffled the world, and for the first time, the farm felt like home. Not a prison, but a place of reckoning. The revelation settled over the next days like a fresh snowfall. Soft at first, then heavy, reshaping the landscape of my heart. We stayed through New Year's, Elena insisting on mending what she could. Mom, frail in her rocker by the window, her once iron gaze softened by time and loss, met my eyes with a flicker of shame. We were scared, son, of losing the boy we knew. No apologies flowed easy, but there were tentative steps. Her gnarled hand patting mine during checkers with Luca, Dad's gravelly voice from his hospital bed in town, grumbling about the cold but asking after my fancy city job. Roman drove down on the 27th, his SUV crunching gravel like a conquering hero, bearing pie from his mom's recipe and a quiet strength that anchored us all. Family reunions are overrated, he joked to Elena, but his arm around my waist said otherwise, a silent vow amid the awkward toasts. Luca latched onto us like ivy, his questions a bridge across the chasm. Did you always know you liked boys, Uncle Addie? He'd ask over cocoa, wide-eyed under the kitchen fluorescence. I'd glance at Roman, his smile crinkling the corners of his eyes, and nod. It crept up like dawn. Scary at first, then the most natural thing. Elena listened, her silence no longer a wall but a witness, piecing together the man I'd become. We walked the frozen fields one afternoon. The four of us. Me, Roman, Luca, Elena. Breath fogging the air as crows cawed overhead. This land's in our blood, she said, kicking at a drift. But we don't have to let it define us. Roman squeezed my hand, his warmth seeping through gloves, and I believed her. Back in Omaha, life bloomed with fragile urgency. Roman and I set a wedding date for June, under the bluffs where he'd proposed, inviting the patchwork family we'd forged. Elena flew in monthly, Luca in tow during summers, his soccer cleats cluttering our entryway as he commandeered the couch for Marvel marathons. You're cooler than Mom said, he'd declare, fist-bumping Roman over popcorn fights. Elena and I rebuilt in layers. Brunch at diners where we dissect old wounds over Eggs Benedict. Her laughter bubbling up like she'd held it hostage for years. I wrote you 1,000 times, she admitted one rainy afternoon in my apartment. Rain pattering the window like impatient fingers. Burned most. The rest, I chickened out. I traced the scar on my palm from a childhood bike crash we'd shared. The skin puckered like our history. Burn them now. We're here. But reconciliation isn't a straight road. It's riddled with potholes that jolt you awake. Doubts crept in during quiet hours. Would Mom and Dad ever truly accept Roman? Or was their thaw just seasonal? Elena's calls grew sporadic, laced with exhaustion. Luca's texts hinted at home tensions. Her job at the community center stretched thin by budget cuts. Mom's sad again. He'd message, emojis masking the ache. I drove to Lincoln unannounced one spring weekend. finding her curled on the couch amid takeout containers. Luca at a sleepover. It's nothing, she waved off, but her eyes betrayed the lie. Nights alone echoing with ghosts of Tom, the farm's pull like a siren's call. You left for me? I said, sinking beside her. Don't stay trapped now. She leaned her head on my shoulder, the weight of unspoken years pressing down. Maybe it's time I came back. For good. The wedding planning became our rallying cry, a whirlwind of tux fittings and playlist debates that pulled us tighter. Roman's family, boisterous Chicago Italians with gelato recipes and bear hugs, enveloped Elena like she'd always been kin. Your sister's a firecracker, his sister Maria declared, clinking glasses at the rehearsal dinner. Luca, ring-bearer in a tiny vest, practiced his vows with solemn gravity. I promise to love and cherish, and not trip down the aisle. Laughter rippled, but beneath it thrummed the undercurrent of what we'd all survived. Betrayals not just of family, but of selves we'd hidden to fit. June arrived sweltering, the bluffs carpeted in wildflowers that nodded in the breeze off the Platte. Vows exchanged under a canopy of oaks, Roman's voice steady as he slipped the band on my finger. Adrielle, you turned my history into our story. I choose you, every page. Tears blurred his face, mine. Elena's sniffles from the front row mingling with Luca's whoops. Mom and Dad sat stiffly at the back, invited but distant, their presence a concession rather than celebration. As we danced under string lights, Roman's hand at my waist, Elena cut in with Luca, her twirl with him a mirror of our childhood waltzes. Proud of you, little brother, she murmured, eyes shining. In that moment, the past felt like a chapter closed, the future a blank canvas begging for color. Yet fate, that capricious editor, had revisions in store. 2 months post-honeymoon, blissful days in the Smokies, where Roman traced constellations on my skin under cabin rafters. Elena's call shattered the idyll. It's the farm. Dad's gone. Heart attack, swift as a shadow, leaving Mom adrift in the big empty house. We raced to Riverside, Roman at the wheel, my hand clenched in his. The funeral was a somber parade. Neighbors in starched collars murmuring platitudes, the church pews creaking under collective grief. Elena stood tall at the graveside, eulogy unflinching. He loved hard, even when it hurt. May we remember the man, not the mistakes. Mom clung to her arm, then mine, her whisper frail. I'm sorry, Addie, for all of it. Roman's steady presence, hand on my back, quiet words in my ear, held me upright as the dirt fell like final judgments. In the aftermath, the farm became a crossroads. Elena, unmoored, Wade selling it to fund Luca's college dreams. It's poisoned ground, she confided over midnight coffee, the house groaning around us. Luca, voice deepening into manhood, pleaded otherwise. This is home, Mom. We can fix it. Roman and I offered what we could, weekend work crews, his history lessons turning dusty attics into classrooms for Luca's friends. Slowly, the place transformed. Wild gardens tamed, rooms aired of stale regret. Mom softened further, her Bible verses now laced with questions about that nice young man you married. One evening, as fireflies danced in the yard, she pulled Roman aside on the porch. Take care of my boy, she said, voice cracking. He nodded, eyes misting. Always have, ma'am. But the real storm brewed in Elena's silence, a tension I'd mistaken for healing. Late August, Luca arrived on our doorstep unannounced, backpack slung low, eyes puffy from crying. Mom's gone, he choked out, collapsing into my arms. Not dead. Packed a bag, left a note echoing her old one to me. I need to find myself again. Luca stays with you. Love always. Roman brewed tea, his calm a counterpoint to the chaos, as Luca spilled the fragments. Elena's unraveling after Dad's death, therapy sessions she'd hidden, the farm's weight crushing her like it had Tom. She said you forgave her once. Maybe Luca can too. The boy, my nephew, now a stand-in son, curled on the couch, vulnerability raw as fresh snow. Betrayal's echo reverberated, not from Elena this time, but from the patterns we couldn't escape. I drove to the farm at dawn, Mom's pleas trailing me. Give her grace, like you got. The house stood empty, her scent lingering in the air. Vanilla and vanilla regret. On the kitchen table, beside the note, lay the shoebox from Christmas, letters spilling like confessions. The last one, dated yesterday. Addie, I defended you because I saw myself in you. Scared, different, loving fierce. But I never forgave myself for leaving. Now, with Dad gone, it's like the land's cursing me. I'm going west, to California maybe, where the sun chases shadows. Raise Luca right. Tell him I'm not running from him. From you. I'm running to. Tears hot on my cheeks. I gathered the box. The weight lighter now. Truths unfurling like petals. Roman found me there, pulling me into the yard where the corn whispered secrets. We'll find her, he said, but I shook my head. No. We'll wait, like she did for me. Fall unfurled in Omaha like a reluctant confession. Leaves turning gold and crimson, mirroring the slow burn of our new normal. Luca settled into the spare room, his posters of Messi and Marvel heroes papering the walls, soccer practices filling evenings with the thud of balls against chain link. Roman mentored him through algebra woes, their heads bent over textbooks at the kitchen island, laughter punctuating fractions. You're stuck with us now, kid, Roman teased one night, ruffling Luca's hair. The boy grinned, braces glinting. Good. Uncle Addie's cooking sucks without backup. Me? I designed a family crest for the three of us. Interlocking rivers for resilience, a phoenix for rebirth. Framing it above the mantel as our quiet manifesto. Elena checked in via postcards at first, postmarks tracing a zigzag west. Denver's mountains, Salt Lake's salt flats, finally anchoring in San Francisco's fog-shrouded hills. Found a job at a shelter, helping runaways like we were. One read, her script steadier. Luca's lucky to have you. Kiss him for me. Video calls bridged the miles, her face pixelated but brighter. Apartment overlooking the bay where seals barked like old friends. I needed this, she'd say, Luca waving from my lap, to stop being the fixer and just be. He forgave in fits and starts. Teary accusations melting into hugs, his questions evolving from why to when. Mom visited monthly, her station wagon laden with pies and progress, reading psalms with a new lilt. Love bears all things. The farm sold to a young couple vowing organic corn, proceeds seeding Luca's future and Elena's fresh start. As winter gripped the plains, Roman and I stole moments amid the domestic whirl. Date nights at the Anchor, where it all began, his hand tracing mine across scarred wood. You know, he murmured over whiskey one December eve, snowflakes dancing beyond the frosted pane. I fell first that night. Your laugh. It hooked me. I leaned in, foreheads touching, the world narrowing to us. And I stayed because you saw the broken parts and built with them. Luca's growth marked time's mercy. Braces off by spring, his first girlfriend, a sharp-witted goalie named Riley, prompting awkward dad talks from Roman that had me stifling grins. Just be you, kid, I'd advise, echoing Elena's old mantra. The rest follows. The climax crested unbidden, a summer storm in July, 2 years to the day Roman proposed. Elena announced her return. I'm ready. For all of it. She arrived with salt in her hair and stories in her eyes. A U-Haul trailing like a promise kept. We gathered at the bluffs for a barbecue. The air thick with charcoal and possibility. Mom grilling corn with surprising vigor, Luca and Riley tossing frisbees, Roman flipping burgers with professorial precision. Elena pulled me aside as dusk painted the sky violet, the river murmuring below. I was wrong to leave again, she said, voice steady. But it taught me, family isn't perfection. It's showing up, scars and all. We hugged, the kind that mends fractures, her whisper fierce. You're the brave one, Addie. Always were. Luca, ever the truth-teller, orchestrated the finale. He'd unearthed more from the shoebox, a bundle of unsent letters Elena had forwarded, including one from Mom, penned post-stroke. I defended the farm's rules but lost my children. Forgive an old fool. Reading it aloud by firelight that night, Luca's voice steady. We wept collectively. Tears of release, not rupture. Dad's absence loomed, but in his silence, we heard absolution. Roman raised a glass. To truths revealed, and the loves that endure. Clinks echoed, stars wheeling overhead like witnesses finally convinced. In the years that followed, our tapestry wove richer. Elena opened a counseling center in Omaha, specializing in LGBTQ plus youth. Her office a haven of rainbows and resolve. Luca thrived, college-bound for history at UNL Roman's alma mater. His wedding to Riley a sun-drenched affair where Elena walked him down the aisle, her arm linked with mine. Mom passed gently at 86, her last words a benediction. Tell your sister, proud. We scattered her ashes in the Platte, the water carrying her toward whatever grace awaits. Roman and I aged into silver foxes, our loft traded for a craftsman near the river, garden bursting with Elena's roses. On anniversaries, we'd revisit the bluffs, hands entwined, Luca's kids, our grandnieces, chasing fireflies as he spun tales of the uncle who saved the family. Elena, ever the defender, would quip, "Nah, we all did." And in those sunsets, dramatic as any Midwest thunderhead, I'd trace the arc of it all, from betrayal's sting to revelation's balm. And no, love isn't the absence of pain, but the courage to hold through it. Human, flawed, unbreakable. In America's vast, forgiving heart, we'd found our way home.